going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Viall Files. I am your host, Nick, joined by my producer, Chrissy. We got the social media syndicate. One in studio, one virtual. We're a growing team.
We're a growing team.
I like this idea that we don't have our social security. I keep saying social security. I don't know. The social media syndicate. We're not mic'd up yet. We don't know if we will. Maybe we will.
They're a mystery right now.
They're a mystery right now. A couple of.
You see the product of all of their efforts.
We want to thank
We
want to thank Northwestern for training them up.
Sponsoring
Northwestern grads.
Thank you, Northwestern, for sponsoring our team.
We have a great guest here today. One Ivan. Some of you may have had the opportunity to hear him on one of, not more of the other podcasts he's been on. But we are glad that Ivan was able to connect with us, and hopefully you find this conversation with Ivan to be a little different than what you've heard from some of the other conversations that he's had. So I loved it. I think he's great. Glad I got an opportunity to get to know him more, and this conversation really was about just getting to know Ivan, the person, and not so much the person on the show. So hopefully you find this to be enjoyable. I know I had a great time talking to him.
You guys are super similar. You guys had the same kind of take on a lot of things, which I thought was kind of interesting, actually. Your brain works similar, I think.
Yeah, I think our brains work similar. It was nice to talk to him about, obviously, we dived a little bit more into the conversation about his faith or religion. And, we're different in that regard, where I grew up, very religious and am still religious to this day. I have, more questions. Like when you're younger, I think for me, you're just kind of like, well, this is how it is. It's just more blind faith. And now I find myself to be poking holes in the things that I was taught. But I think the important thing when talking about Ivan is, especially when it comes to that topic, is, it's okay if in a dating situation, if you don't have the same beliefs as someone. And then that might mean it won't work out. But sometimes people who aren't religious feel kind of shame and guilt for bringing that up in a situation. And it was nice to have that conversation with Ivan. But
and we get that in Ask Nick a lot too, so it's kind of interesting to hear his take on it.
For sure.
Being in that situation.
Well, let's not spoil any more of the Ivan interview, but I think we just get right to it. Don't forget to send your questions at asknick@castmedia.com, cast with a K. Make sure to join us every Monday when we do our Ask Nick episodes. Giving some great advice to some really fun callers, and we all learn a little about ourselves and relationships. And we will be back on Monday with that, obviously our recaps, and we'll just be pumping out more entertaining content for you. Thanks for sticking with us. Be sure to give us a follow on the old gram, Viall Files on Instagram, because our committee, our syndicate, is working hard on entertaining you with social media stuff. It's a lot of fun. Anywho, anything else? Should we just get to it?
Great. Just get to it.
Ivan, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Well, I guess to get started, how are you doing? It's we're in a new year. It's obviously been a few weeks since the end of the season finale, and obviously a couple months removed from your time filming the show. How's it going for Ivan?
It's going great. It's been some time since I left the show, and now that it's over, I actually feel a sigh of relief, I'll say. It's been a couple weeks, so that's nice. And then my nephew was just born recently, so I was very excited about that. On January 1st, so I got a text from my brother. Thank you. Yeah, New Year's Eve, I got a text from him. He said the baby's coming, and it was 2 weeks early actually, so it was a surprise for us all. But everything's really good. I'm keeping it real low key, COVID and stuff, and it's everything's really good so far. I love the reception I'm getting from everybody in Bachelor Nation and whatnot. So it's been really nice.
And you mentioned it feels like a relief. Why?
Just because there's like that anxiety of like, oh, what's going to be shown? How do I look here? All that kind of stuff. And I've had that pretty much every episode, especially like actually episode one, my anxiety was off the wall. Like I had to like just go outside and breathe for a little bit because I was like, I can't believe this is happening. It was kind of crazy. And then, yeah, and then I guess at the finale there and how all that would be shown and stuff was kind of the other thing that was in the back of my mind too. But yeah, I'm kind of just glad it's all done because there's just a lot of judgment and criticism on how things should be done and how me and Tasha are together and all that kind of stuff, which is fine with me and it doesn't bother me really much at all. But it is just a lot.
I'm only asking because I'm almost surprised, and maybe it's unfair to assume this, but you come across as poised, grounded, and yet you've talked about anxiety. I mean, forgive me for assuming you would not be someone who would suffer from any type of anxiety. Is that something you deal with, or just more specific to the show? Or because I mean, I get anxiety a lot, but like, is that something that you get?
It's no, not really at all, honestly. So I think your assumptions are right. But yeah, in regards to the show, I definitely had some anxiety. I think the biggest one did come from the whole religion thing, because I don't ever talk about religion at all, pretty much. And like nobody knows I'm not religious, and living in Dallas in the Bible Belt and stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like you get a little bit of judgment sometimes for that kind of stuff. So I just don't talk about it ever. So I was just wondering how that would be received by everybody. And yeah, my phone blew up and my Twitter blew up that night for sure. So.
Yeah, well, that was my question, because, I know that was the big question, and I know you talked a little bit with Caitlin about, just the explanation, because we weren't really given one while watching the show. But you mentioned that you're agnostic. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then I've actually kind of changed it a little bit. Yeah, I would say I'm just non-religious mostly now, because non-religious is like the umbrella for like agnostic, atheist, and unaffiliated. I could also say agnostic as well. I'm probably leaning towards that the most if I had to choose one.
And do you find that, yeah, I mean, you mentioned just a little bit of fear, in terms of getting a judgment and you got, it sounds like a warm welcoming for just kind of putting it out there. I only bring it up just obviously because we have a lot of people who listen to our show, a lot of people religious, a lot of people who either grew up in a religious household and maybe aren't so much anymore and sometimes feel shame or guilt from that. Has it been kind of a not rewarding, but reassuring experience that it's okay to feel how you feel about your beliefs, even though you had some reluctance talking about it?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely a very big relief. And that goes with really everything on the show so far. Honestly, I've received very little like hate mail or DMs, honestly, compared to what I thought I would be receiving and what like the girls from Peter's season went through. I was actually shocked at how little hate I've gotten. So it's all been pretty much warm, and I've heard like great stories and people thanking me for opening up and whatnot. And yeah, I've loved the reception I've had. So it's been really nice. I guess the anxiety came in a little bit just because like being non-religious and like, let's just say like playing sports and stuff growing up, everybody like it's really big in sports to like, bow your head and pray and that kind of stuff. And then like guys give you crap if you're not religious. And then it like just brings up some anxiety and people pick on you a little bit. So I've always been kind of an oddball when it comes to that. So I kind of just be quiet, or I just don't really say much about it. And then now it's like the whole world knows I'm not religious, and, which is fine with me because I'm completely comfortable with who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to like hide that on TV, and, I am who I am, and I just try to be the best person I can be, and people just have to accept that basically.
Totally. I mean, like you said, you are come across as a very confident, self-assured person. And interesting enough, we're talking about, religion, obviously I don't know if you watched Matt's premiere or heard about it, but he chose to pray in his kind of first speech to the women, and a lot of people loved it. Other people were just like, well, if I'm not religious, that would make me uncomfortable. Talking about like, how have you handled in your dating life or your personal life, going about, someone in a group, deciding to like say open a meeting in prayer or whatever it is. Like, if you were in the room, let's say Tasha, she's religious, she opened in prayer. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you like that? Do you think people should be able to do that? And if you're not religious, you can just kind of stay quiet, or do you feel like sometimes people who like yourself who aren't religious or maybe practice a different religion. You know, there are a lot of people, well, what if I'm Muslim? What if I'm Jewish? What if I'm Buddhist, and you just assume I'm Christian? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, with Matt opening things up with a prayer, I think that was a great move for him. You know, I guess he is Christian, and he's that's a big part of his life. So I think that was great for him to show that to the women, so that they kind of know where he stands with it a little bit. And hopefully that conversation about religion will come up a little bit sooner with Matt and his women, you know? So I think that was great for that. Now, being on the other side and being in scenarios, like, for example, my older half brother, he's very Christian, he's religious, and just a bunch of situations where I've been around a lot of Christian people, or for, you know, dinners or whatever and whatnot. And then people, you know, they decide to let's pray or whatever. A lot of times I'll just, most of the time I usually just go along with it. Sometimes I'll kind of just like, you know, I'll respect it, basically is what I'm doing. Like, I'm just respecting it. I'm not, maybe won't say like amen or anything like that, but I'll just respect it and then let everybody pray. I don't have to like leave the room and make a big scene or anything like that. It's completely fine with me.
Totally.
I respect everybody's beliefs. So, yeah, now if somebody said like, hey, Ivan, put your head down and say amen, or like told me to do something, like, then that's like, okay, like don't like force your religion on me or anything like that. But yeah, I respect it. And I just let everybody do what they need to do. I may put my head down. I may just, you know, kind of stay in there quietly, but that's kind of the way I go about it.
I love snacks. I do. Snacks are the best. Who doesn't like snacks? Are there things?
I love snacks.
Does anyone not like snacks? Have you ever met someone that are like, you know what, I don't like snacks. Snacks are fucking...
No one's ever said that in the history of the world.
Also, the only problem with snacks is they often are full of sugar and carbs and things that, aren't necessarily great for us. Well, there is now, because High Key snacks are available, and they are low-carb, gluten-free, keto, or vegan snacks that have no added sugar, no grains, no gluten, and no apologies. That's right. No longer will you have FOMO from snacking, because sometimes when people are trying to like get on some sort of diet or health kick, they say, I'm not going to snack anymore. Well, it's not the snacking that's the problem. It's the things that we're putting in our body. Well, you can have delicious treats with very little sugar, very little carbs, or is it no carbs? I don't fucking know. Less than 1 gram of sugar.
Less than 1 gram of sugar. No carbs.
Keto-friendly, vegan, gluten-free, and less than 1 gram of sugar. Whether you decide to dig into a bag of the #1 selling chocolate chip cookie, mini cookie, or pour a bowl of the protein cereal, or their coconut macaroons that I have,
and their
right
caramel clusters. Yum.
Sugar is canceled with High Key, but deliciousness is not. Get 15% off your order at high-key.com/files, Files. They'll guarantee you'll love it or your money back. To get 15% off your order, go to High Key. That's HIGHKEY.com/FILES. That's high-key.com/FILES. Well, it's 2021, and that's great, but that doesn't mean that we still don't have things going on in this world that might stress us the fuck out and affect our mental health. And that's why BetterHelp is here for us. We are obviously big advocates of mental wellness and getting professional help from, say, a therapist or a licensed professional. And sometimes that can be challenging, especially in a time where there's a pandemic. BetterHelp helps you access professional therapists to help with your mental health from the comfort of your home. You can talk to them through your computer, your phone, whether you're struggling from anxiety, depression, relationship problems, really
grief.
Whatever, grief. Doesn't really matter what it is. Maybe you just want someone to talk to. BetterHelp will align you with the right type of professional for you. You'll let them know what your needs are, and they'll align you with a counselor or a therapist that will best match what you're looking for. And if it's not the right match, the first one, no problem. You can request a different one. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. Visit BetterHelp.com/Viall Files. That's better, HELP, and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Special offer for Viall File listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/Viall Files. And like you said, I mean, for Matt, sometimes people forget too, it is a show about Matt finding love, right?
Exactly.
And Matt
Exactly.
set
Yeah.
the tone early on, and I assume Matt probably recognized that maybe not every one of the 30 women or how many women were in that group would love that, but what was important is that was him, and probably would attract the type of women right off the bat that he's into. Is that something you kind of mentioned earlier, that it wasn't really talked about, and you actually apologized to Tayshia like when she was breaking up with you for not bringing it up? How aware were you of Tayshia's beliefs early on, that you know, when you apologized, did you know she was religious and chose to withhold that, or was it just kind of like wanting to be polite, and you just kind of you didn't really realize until you guys talked about it in the fantasy suite?
That is one thing I will say I kind of regret almost, because I didn't mean to apologize. I was just kind of trying to be nice and like just get off the stage quickly and just go at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to leave, really. And, you know, and because at the end of the day, and what I realized is like, even before that, I don't really know why I apologized, but you know, that's just her belief. And if that's something that's important to her, then really she could have brought that up a little bit sooner, honestly. Like, it's not something I ever talk about, so I'm not going to bring it up. But I do know that she has brought up, she said maybe one time to me that like her mom instilled her faith in her. But like in my dating history, I've dated, pretty much everybody I've dated has been Christian. And you know, it's never been a deal breaker in the past. Like, it is a little bit jarring and shocking for them maybe in the beginning, especially if they start asking like detailed questions about like things that they believe and how I view those things. And I'm simply saying like, hey, I don't really know what's going on. But I respect your belief. Then that kind of like shocks people, I'll say. So that was one thing that definitely worked against us, was the whole time aspect of it all. But I mean, I think we can all learn from it, really. It's, I think Tayshia being exposed to somebody like me who's non-religious is great, like just a great learning opportunity for her going forward. But granted, she's with Zach, so it doesn't really matter now, but it is something I'm sure she learned from. And you know, what's interesting is like that night, like 5 of the guys texted me and they were like, what in the world, Ivan? I'm not religious too. So I was like, yeah, man, I mean, it's just an unfortunate situation. And that's just the guys who texted me. So, yeah, I guess it's something that I think everybody will just be more cognizant of, I guess, going forward. And, you know, Tayshia, you know, it's no fault of her own. She had the shortest Bachelorette season ever, and she was kind of just thrust into that role. So maybe she didn't really get to think all this stuff out nearly as much as, you know, Claire and others have had the opportunity to. Yeah. And then, like I said, like we had the shortest season ever. So we got to the fantasy suite stage faster than anybody ever has, really. There really wasn't like a great time to like talk about religion, like maybe even after a cocktail party, because like that's a longer conversation to have too. So all I had was that one-on-one early on, then a hometown, and then fantasy suites. So it happened when it happened. There's really nothing we could do about it, I think.
Do you have an idea of how many days between when Tayshia showed up to when you found yourself in the fantasy suite with Tayshia in like a real time?
Yeah, it was definitely under a month though, because I mean we don't have travel days or anything like that, so it was just shooting back to back to back.
Wow. You mentioned your previous dating life, and you know, so much of this season we got to hear about a lot of the other guys' dating life, and this was generally an older season in terms of the age of the men, and I'm assuming that a lot had to do with, you know, Claire being, you know, 39, so they're aging up, right? And so you're 27, 28?
I'm 28.
Yeah, so you're 28 years old, which historically has been one of the older, you know, people on the show. And yet, because you had, you know, all these other guys who are older than you kind of got this, I don't want to say edit, but like people perceived you as like younger, maybe not necessarily immature, because you come across as very mature, but just doesn't have as much experience. Like between, you know, say you and the other guys, it was like Ivan was the young, impressionable guy who's just like in love for the first time. But yet it sounds like that might be inaccurate, where you have plenty of other dating experience, and we never really got to hear about, you know, maybe heartbreak or breakups that you've ever endured. Is that accurate?
For sure. And yeah, we could step through that a little bit as well, because yeah, that really wasn't told too much on TV. But yeah, I appreciate you making the comment that I'm mature, and I've always liked to think that I have been kind of mature for my age, and I kind of think I do kind of more so compare it to like a younger 30s or mid 30s year old type of guy. I have had like love experience, and I have had heartbreak. And, in college, I never really dated too seriously, dated around or whatever. And then, after college, or like maybe my senior year of college and going to my early career professional days, I did date a girl for about 5 years on and off. So we were deeply in love, like, and she was amazing, and she's smart. She's a doctor now. She's great. And I really thought she could have been the one, but then unfortunately, I got a job opportunity, or fortunately as well, but I got a great job opportunity in Florida. I kind of moved there, and then she had to move to Houston. And, things kind of just didn't work out really. And at the end of the day, we were still a little bit young, and both a little bit inexperienced, I'll say. And when she really decided to move on, and I saw her like actually dating other guys, is when I honestly went to like a really dark place to a certain degree, I'll say. But and I really wasn't right, I would say, for at least the next like 8 months, because so many times I would just think about her. I'd had to like block her from my phone just to make sure I don't think about her. And it's not like I hated her or anything at all by any means. We had a great time together, but I just like almost regretted it didn't work out. And it kind of hated this fact that we couldn't be like in the same city and all that kind of stuff, and definitely missed her. But yeah. And then in that time, especially like I'm, 24, 25 in Florida, making really good money as an engineer over there near Orlando. And then I'm just like traveling to Miami and going to Tampa, and, just living life, honestly, just trying to like do anything to like make myself feel better a little bit, probably partying a little bit too much, and just, talking to girls just to make myself feel better. I wasn't looking for anything serious at all. And then, but, eventually you start to get over that. You start to realize you're meeting all these people and forming all these relationships that at the end of the day don't really mean anything and don't add value to my life at all. Like I've been, talked to or dated, went on dates with so many girls. They all mean almost, the relationships don't mean much to me anymore. We didn't build anything deep at all. So now I'm like kind of in a much better place. I moved back to Dallas. I'm closer to family, and I'm looking for something more serious. And I don't want to return to a place where I'm just like, in the streets with all, just trying to find girls to like hook up with or date around a ton. I'd rather just, start to build my life going forward, and with somebody who's as ambitious as me and ready to just take on the world.
Sure. So a couple follow-up questions to what you just said.
Yep. That was a lot. Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
One, I just want to say, I think it's when you mentioned you blocked your ex.
Yeah.
I love how you pointed out that it had nothing to do with you hating her or anything wrong with her, but it was something that you did for yourself. Like it sounds like, and correct me if I'm
100%.
wrong, that you just felt like you knew yourself well enough, right, that you needed to stop any communication, right? And just almost
100%.
protect yourself. And I think that's great. And I only bring that up because we mentioned that like in our Ask Nick episodes, and when people call in, that like it's okay as long as it depends on what your intentions are. Like sometimes people do it because they just want the other person to know you're blocking them because they know it's going to get a reaction and they'll unblock, and it's just kind of toxic. But this was all for you in self-preservation because you knew emotionally that's what you needed to heal. And I think that's great.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I 100% needed to do that for myself, just to focus on stuff other than her. It just hurt too much, and I hate like the idea of like a lot of times where exes just like hate each other for no real reason. I'm like, I always appreciate the time we had that I had with my ex. I always appreciate the time I had with Tasha, and I'm always going to hope and wish the best for them, honestly.
Have you thought about your hair goals in 2021?
Yes.
Just
Yes, I
besides
have.
keeping it?
Yes, I have.
Well, your hair is looking great, Chrissy. Can you explain why it's shining through the internet?
This is seriously my favorite shampoo. I can't even tell you. It's not only the wonderful Montana water that also helps, but Function of Beauty I've had for a really long time now, and I love it. It's super easy. You just go onto their website and you take their quiz. If you've got straight, wavy, curly, or coily hair, you let them know if your hair is dry, if you need more volume in it, if it's stripped, if you've got split ends, and they send you like, you can even pick the color. They put your name on the bottle, and they even let you pick the scent. So you can customize your own shampoo, and they'll pick it and put it all together for you. And it really is amazing. It's not unlike any other shampoo that I've ever used, and I'm obsessed with it. and I've got the long locks to prove.
Did you know there's over 54 trillion possible formulations? Every ingredient Function of Beauty uses is vegan and cruelty-free, and they never use sulfates or parabens. Great. You can also go completely silicone-free. So never be disappointed with products you buy off the shelf ever again. Go to functionofbeauty.com/VIALL. Take your quiz. Save 20% off your first order. That applies to their full range of customized hair, skin, and body products. Go to functionofbeauty.com/VIALL to let them know you heard about it from our show. And get 20% off your order. functionofbeauty.com/VIALL. On the dating aspect, I am curious because, I've heard it, with other interviews you've done, and you've said it to us in terms of like, you're that ready to find your person, so to speak, right? And then you've done some dating. And that sounds all great, but in the meantime, right, you also sound like someone who understands his own value, has expectations of the person he wants to find. You've dated other people, so you've seen the pros and cons of exes in the past. And while it's nice to be like, I'm ready to find that person, what happens in the next 2 or 3 years if you don't? I'm assuming you're still going to date. So I just want to be clear, you're not necessarily against dating or meeting, but like it's just more or less of a mindset in terms of, was there a period of time where you were just kind of like, I don't want to date, and I just was more dating casually without any idea of pursuing the next steps with someone?
Yeah. So my mindset, for example, like my mid-20s, 24 to 26, I'd say I had no intentions of having like a girlfriend or serious relationship or potentially getting married. Like I wanted to date around. I wanted to have experience dating all different types of women of different types of cultures and backgrounds and whatnot. That's what I wanted to do because I thought that would give me great experience going forward. And I really wasn't looking to do anything serious. Yeah. And then now like going forward and through my experiences, I'm going to say like I'm in a place where I definitely want to settle down now, but I don't want to force it at all. And I definitely do have very high requirements, I'd say, for like a potential partner for myself. So I don't want to force it. And, there's a balancing act, but I definitely do want to be like earnest in my like intent for looking for like a life partner, I guess I could say.
Yeah, for sure. What are things that you've learned about yourself and through your previous dating experiences that you have found that you thought you wanted in a partner and now realize it's not the best fit for yourself? I guess the question is more around like we have a tendency of like list building when we're younger, I want X, Y, and Z. And then as we get older, realize, well, that's not really important, but this is important type of thing.
I think I kind of always knew this, but like the thing that, definitely makes itself apparent with me, for me at least, is like I could be with the most beautiful looking woman in the world, but if somebody isn't like challenging me at all, I get bored very quickly. And I also realize like I generally do need a girl who's like pretty intelligent or smart or who can teach me things. Cause otherwise I just get bored, or we need to be able to like talk about like cool topics and her be like able to ask like good questions and whatnot. So that is one thing I learned as far as like actual long-term relationships lasting, cause the surface level stuff only lasts so long, I'd say for sure. And it's not like, I'm definitely can never be like one of those guys who just has like a trophy wife. That could never work out for me at all, I would say.
Yeah, well, I can relate to that. What are things that what do you like talking most about? I mean, like if we were on a date, Ivan, like what would be a question I could ask you that would pique your interest? Or, more accurately, if say a young lady's listening to this podcast and she's just like, I just want to stimulate Ivan's brain. What can she ask you?
I love it when a woman is just very passionate about a topic or whatever it is, their career is maybe. And if they could just go into details about the things they're doing and they're really ambitious in their field, or being an entrepreneur or being a lawyer or doctor. And then, and then they're kind of just nerding out and just telling me all these different things. Like I'm going to ask a ton of questions just to understand for myself. So like, that's the kind of stuff I really want to see more than anything. I think is somebody who's like passionate about, a variety of different topics and just has a big heart really. But yeah, it could be really anything. I don't like have a specific topic I like always like to dig into. But yeah,
I think that's great. I definitely relate to, hearing someone's passion about what they're like, just whatever they're passionate about.
Exactly.
Especially if it's a topic that, for me at least, I know very little about. right? And so they speak
Exactly.
passionately about it, and I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. Or just I am attracted, and I wonder if you agree. I'm attracted to people who are good at things that I don't know that I'm not good at, or like you point, yet you can learn from them, and it's just like almost it's a way of almost putting me in my place, I suppose. Are you the same way?
I think I am. Yeah, I'm definitely that way a little bit too, I would say, for sure. I do like that.
Is it safe to say that you're a rocket scientist?
No, it's not safe to say at all.
What is the difference? What is the difference between being aeronautical, and I can't even pronounce it, engineer? And I have a friend who I don't know if he works for Lockheed Martin, but he does what you do. And I jokingly call him a rocket scientist. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between your title and a rocket scientist?
Yeah, to be clear, I've actually have never had that title. Shocked. This is a newsbreaker here. I haven't told anybody that yet. But I told the show that I just said, just put down engineer. Like that sounds good to me. But because of the fact that I work for a company that builds jets for the military, they embellished and added aeronautical engineer on there. So that's fine, because that's mostly what a lot of the people that work at my company are aeronautical engineers. But yeah, I've mostly been my degree was industrial engineering. I've mostly been a systems engineer, and in my career, I'm kind of in software quality now, and project management and process improvement, I would say now. But I'm technically not an aeronautical engineer. I actually don't know too much about how to actually design jets or anything. I do know a lot about data and metrics and process improvement more so. But I just happen to be working at a company that's all centered around aerospace and whatnot.
It's very honest of you to say, Ivan. I don't know. I hope no one's disappointed in the fact that you technically.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I will say, rocket scientist sounds much better. I will.
You could just take that now. Why just not take it?
I mean, it's already associated with me now.
Yeah.
I think most people are running with it, so I don't care really what they call me. It's fine. It's all engineering.
My buddy, he actually does work on the rocket, so he would jokingly, in his younger days, would. Like at bars and they're like, what do you do? And she's like, well, I'm a rocket scientist. And obviously they think you're joking, and technically he was. So I just wanted to ask, but
for sure.
We got to know obviously your family a little bit on the hometown episode, and specifically your brother, who was as well received as you were. I think he really made a great impression. His story a little bit was he was in prison, right?
Yes.
And I think it sounds like you have become more passionate about prison reform.
Yeah, it's something like prison and prison reform. It's something that I was aware of growing up, but if it doesn't really touch you, you don't really think too hard about it. And especially the way the prison system is, they hide prisons in the middle of nowhere and stuff, so people don't see it too much. And the U.S. has the highest imprisonment rate in most prisoners in the entire world, and we're not nearly the biggest country, but we're supposed to be the greatest. And then growing up, my brother and I, we were very close. He's only a year and a half younger than me, so we grew up like this. We did everything together, and he's also very athletic, so we used to just play sports together, fight all the time. Grew up in the same room till we were entirely too old, and so we were very similar in a lot of ways. And I was a good student. He was a really good student, an athlete as well. But yeah, really when I went to college, I went off to, go down my path and become an engineer. And then he kind of just, lost control a little bit, started getting into things he really didn't. He had no business getting into with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And getting into fights with people, and, just this really dangerous path, especially when it comes to addiction. And then that continued on. He would be arrested here and there, just maybe spend a day in jail or whatever. And then that continued on for quite a while. I'll say maybe a few years, until when he was 20 or 21 is when something really bad happened. And unfortunately, he did have to spend 4+ years in prison. And that was just really hard on myself and my family. And but it also opened all of our eyes up way more than they already were, as to what's going on with with the prison conditions and whatnot. And it's just very sad, because people do know My brother did have a girlfriend and she was pregnant at the time. He did go into prison. So like when she was born, he was behind the glass. He never got to touch my niece for the first 2 years of her life, ever hug her or anything. It was always through a glass, and it would be like the saddest thing to see ever. And we had a couple pictures too. And then it was just hard for him. It was just hard for him. Once you spend a certain amount of time in prison, you kind of start to become a hardened prisoner. And I was definitely kind of starting to see that a little bit. And, navigating the things that are going on in prison is crazy. It's absolutely mind-boggling and crazy. And then my brother would have to like tell me about these stories, and we would have just these one-on-one talks, and I'm trying to coach him through as best as I possibly can without ever being able to help him. My brother didn't do the easiest of time, I'll be honest. He does like to fight and stuff like that, and doesn't back down from anybody, no matter how big you are. So he got into it with a lot of different people and stuff. So there's just a lot of stuff he was trying to navigate. He had to navigate, and changed him in a lot of ways. He also got to do a lot of reading and became, educated in there as well. But yeah, the conditions sucked. He, one time, this was the thing that really sticks with me and then I kind of told on the show where, I don't even remember what exactly, or if he even did anything or what exactly he did, but I know the correctional officers like beat him up really badly. And they ended up sending him to the high security unit for like an entire 10 months, I want to say. And in the high security unit, this is where it's not a good place at all, because these guys are locked up 23 hours a day. Most of the time it's actually 24 hours a day, just because they don't even get that 1 hour of rec time in the size of like a closet, 2 guys for an entire 10 months, which is just like, that's just pure torture in my mind, honestly. I don't see, that's not rehabilitative at all for anybody. And he just went to a really dark place. So, all we could do was write to him. We couldn't talk to him anymore. And it was just a tough time. So yeah, all that being said, it's just opened my eyes. And one of the biggest things, I guess this really comes from my job a little bit too, and when I researched prison reform and like statistics and data on like what's going on in prison, or like correctional officer brutality and that kind of stuff, there's like nothing out there. There's like no visibility into what's going on back there at all. And like all the prisoners complain about how like correctional officers could do what they want, and they're the judge, jury, executioner. They make all the decisions. There's no third party to monitor what's going on. You can get away with whatever you want, Of course there's good ones, but there's definitely a lot of bad ones too, So it's just opened my eyes, and I think that's the biggest problem. Is just there's just a total lack of visibility, and the prisoners,
like almost like accountability. So like kind of to your point,
Yeah.
It almost sounds like there might be great prison guards, but if there's bad ones, no one's doing anything about it.
Exactly, and that's almost human nature. Like if you think you could get away with some stuff, like a lot of times people will do that. It's a bad part.
It's kind of like a God complex, kind of almost, right?
Yeah, like when you get in a position of power, sometimes you abuse that power, and that's just kind of what happens, because these guys. And also the other thing is nobody's advocating for prisoners. Like they're just forgotten. I totally understand that they're in there for a reason, and they're paying for what they've done in the real world, but we still need to think about the fact that pretty much the vast majority of these people are coming back into the real world, and rehabilitation is more so the key than just
torture,
more mental and physical abuse. Like that just makes a worse situation. We're not helping them, we're hurting them more. Like it's not a good situation at all. And so that's something I definitely want to bring light to, and hopefully work with some groups on just bringing more visibility to that topic. And so that's going to be a lifelong project of mine for sure.
Well, that's great to hear. Is there anything, I mean, I know you just mentioned that it's kind of hard to find or how to get involved, but if there are people listening who want to learn more and become more involved in something like prison reform stuff, where are some places that people can go, or how could they become more involved or just educate themselves?
Yeah. So yeah, I've looked at a lot of places, but I will say I'll definitely roll something out here soon on my Instagram at some point. I want to do a little bit more research first before I really give like any specific places, and just make sure they're like completely credible and good sources. So that is something I definitely want to tie into my social media for sure, is like just bringing light to prison conditions and prison reform, and really addressing the root causes as to why are these people even in prison in the first place. That's like the actual main thing that you need to fix are the root causes.
I'm curious, and I just thought about this, but like obviously Tasha and Claire's season was a season that a lot of things that we haven't previously seen before. You know, Ben talking about his eating disorder, obviously talking about his, you know, mental health struggles with suicide. You know, Zach with addiction, and then you obviously with your brother. Talking about being incarcerated and your bond. Is that a conversation you had with producers about the possibility of him coming on? I know he surprised you, but like, what was that?
That whole okay.
Just that hell dynamic, and the fact that that conversation was even aired, right? The fact that you had a brother, and then, you know, we didn't really get a lot into police reform on the show, but it seemed to be touched on a little bit, or just the bond that you had, and. Mm-hmm. You know, what was that conversation or leading up to it, or how much conversations did you have with producers about your brother? And was there a hope of having him come on to talk about that stuff?
With the one-on-one, there wasn't really, there wasn't like in interviews, like the producers may have asked me like, how have I thought about the world events in 2020 and that kind of stuff. So like, it was just some regular conversations and whatnot. That all just came out really just organically, to be honest. It's not like I planned to like bring that stuff up, but the conversation about my brother specifically with Tasha, I guess, is I did plan to bring that up because like I did know that like the story of my brother is like definitely impacted me in my life more than probably anything else ever has, and shaped the way like I think and view people and try to be empathetic. So that's why I wanted to share that with her. And and my brother definitely knew that going into all of this as well, like before I left, because like he knows if I'm going to build any sort of real connection, like I have to talk about him and how that affected me and all that kind of stuff. And then going into the family hometown weekend, I remember early on, they asked me like, who all would I want to come from my hometown? And I was like, my mom, my dad, my brother, and my niece. Those four, I need those four. And my brother are still very close. So when Chris Harrison said it was just my mom and my dad, it actually freaked me out more than anything. Cause I was like, why is my brother not here? That's what was going on in my head. I was trying to be like happy that my mom and dad were there, but it freaked me out in my head because
like, why wouldn't he be there?
Why wouldn't he be there? Yeah.
Did something happen?
Yeah. It's like, and that's the thing that people don't really know about much is like, we're still like, even though he's been out of prison for 1.5 years now, we're still dealing with things and situations occur. And then even before that, I used to always get late night calls. This happened, he crashed the car, whatever it is. And I would have to go kind of save the day. And that kind of still happens today, honestly. And it's still a work in progress. And right before I left, actually, he sent me like this really ominous text that just freaked me out. He was like, hey, Ivan, no matter what happens out here, just like finish the show, no matter what, just like do what you need to do. And that just like freaked me out, I remember. And yeah, I'm over here getting emotional thinking about it, but it truly did freak me out, because I was just like, dang, I'm going to be gone and there's like nothing I'll be able to do. But yeah, so that's what was messing with me the whole time. And then to see my parents there, I was great, but I honestly thought they were going to tell me something terrible had happened. And then, so I was just trying to prepare myself mentally to like not cry or anything like that. And I just wanted to be strong, especially for my mom, because she's a sweetheart and I didn't want to make her sad or anything. So that's where my mind was mentally. I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to just like comfort my mom after this. And then he walked out, and that's why it was just like such a big relief and weight off my shoulders. Cause I was like, they got me here. And then they got me again talking about it. Jeez.
Well, I appreciate you, Ivan, going to that place and sharing it, just because, I think it's obviously a very inspirational story. If nothing else, it's always great to see a connection with someone's sibling and how close and protective you are of your family. And, you know, whether it's someone who, one of my best friend, he's got a brother who's been in and out of prison his whole life. And, you know, whether we have siblings who've gone down that path, but we all have people in our lives who don't make always the best decisions and get themselves in trouble, and we get afraid for them, and so I appreciate you sharing that. And it's nice to hear that. It sounds like things are going well right now for your brother, but like you said, you don't take anything for granted, and you know, it's nice to see you have that bond.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was just yeah, growing up a little bit, just to give a little bit more, it's like I kind of always put a real pressure on myself, and my parents did a little bit too, just to be like a good role model for him, just because I was just 2 years older than him. And so that's what I like prided myself on being. Like that's the main reason why I didn't drink growing up or cuss or do like anything bad, was just like set a good role model for him. So yeah, so it's so like just him going down the wrong path. For a little bit, I felt like a failure almost as an older brother. And I definitely don't feel like that now. I just realized, that's the way he's making his own decisions, and it's just his own path. But I'm still always going to look after him no matter what.
That's awesome. You guys have such a close bond. So, and yeah, I mean, that's just great. What else? What else do we not know about Ivan that I feel like there's so much about you that people didn't get to learn because the show, as we talked about, there's only so much time. They can only show much of your personality and story. That's part of it, as just a limitation of time. But my guess is if your friends or the people who've gotten to spend a lot of time with you over the years, they would say there's so many things about you that people would be surprised, and I'm curious what those are.
Yeah, I do I do have some random, quite a few random things about me, I would say, for sure, that always kind of shock people. But well, okay, so yeah, one thing I did talk about on the show a little bit, and that I am really passionate about is money and investing, to be honest. It's something, again, I realize is like another issue with like, especially not just young Americans, really all Americans, where people don't ever talk about finances too much, or try to figure out or plan for like retirement or anything like that, or plan for the future. And, being like an early career professional, like I've been working like 5-6 years now and made a decent living for myself. I needed to figure out like what I needed to do with all my money. And I wanted to make sure I was doing things right. Like everybody else around me, I see is just like, they have no clue what's going in their 401k. They have no clue what a Roth is. They have no clue about like higher interest savings accounts or REITs or stocks or anything. So that's something I like focused a lot on early on. And I think I'm in a really good spot for it now. And have like taught some classes and like mentored people on like taking care of their finances and investing. Cause it's almost by design. I feel like in this country where I've never been taught like almost anything about finances in school ever that I could remember. Like nobody knows how to teaches you how to buy a house almost, and how that all works, or how interest rates work. It's a goal of mine for sure to like be able to make finances and investing like very fun and simple for people to understand. Cause I get, it's honestly not the most like riveting topic to most people. I find it fascinating, but it's not fun for most people. So I want to like be able to eventually on my social media, like share things and show people things without it being boring, and just like maybe small clips, and then maybe have a follow-up blog post in more detail about it. But like just like 30 minutes of your time could set you up so much better later on, and later on down the road for retirement, and we wouldn't have as many issues as we do now with people running out of money when they're older.
Yeah, well, that is true. Let
that
me know.
So true, though. Nobody ever teaches you that stuff in school, even in economics class.
How did you get into that? Is it something you always been passionate about? Like I've been fortunate where like my dad was good with that. It was tight with money because we had a lot of siblings, and then I had all my uncles were in finance, and my grandfather was in finance, and they were all just really cheap, but yes. They taught me all that. They taught me all that stuff. Did you learn that from your dad, or where did you get that kind of knowledge and interest in the topic?
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up, I'll say, in like a upper middle class family. So my dad did have a pretty good job, and but unfortunately, he honestly, he came from nothing, grew up in the South Side of Chicago. He didn't honestly know too much about money at all. It's kind of funny, like a year ago, I want to say maybe, or less than that, I asked my parents what their net worth was. They had no clue at all. Like they both said a number. I was like, you're completely wrong. And it's just me like taking 1 minute to think about it. So it's just shocking to me how much people don't know about their own finances. But one thing that my parents did to me, or I don't know if they even really forced me to do this, but they gave me a safe when I was like pretty young. And I remember I loved that safe and saved all the money that I ever got in that safe. And they were shocked at how much money I was like accumulating. So I don't know if that was like kind of the thing that made me start to get more into it. And then as I, actually started working and making a decent living as an engineer and had all this like excess money, I knew I didn't just want to leave it in a savings account getting like next to no interest at all. I wanted to see what my options were. I wanted to diversify and invest that money because compounding interest effect is amazing and can lead to hundreds of thousands of dollars more, or millions of dollars more later on in my life, especially by the time I'm 60 or whatever. So, yeah, it's just something that I recognized, I guess, as a need. And I definitely was aware of the fact we never had like any finance classes. And my dad is pretty knowledgeable on like recognizing issues with America. So I'll say he kind of got some of that in me a little bit, but even he himself isn't really with the times, I would say, as far as finances go.
Give our audience one simple finance tip in terms of not so much finance, but like the key to saving. Like what's a common mistake we make other than like we buy the things we want more than we buy the things we really need?
The key to saving really is just discipline. It's honestly, for me, it's mostly comes down to that. For most people, it's just discipline. I could tell you to do a budget, but it comes down to your own self-discipline. Like if you don't have it, then there's not much we can do, to be honest. Like it is what it is. I don't have too many special trips. I will say budgeting does help some people, being able to have that visibility into what they're spending per month versus what they're saving per month does help them. But from what I've seen, it just comes down to self-discipline. And I think being able to educate yourself on, what you want your life to look like in the future might get more people to like look into saving more. I'll say that too, though. So it's but yeah, as young people, you just don't care really is the key. Like you just don't think that far down the road, and I always tend to think down the road though. So
we didn't talk about obviously your conversation with Taylor we didn't talk about your conversation with Tasha, okay. where you guys talked about Black Lives Matter, right? You brought it up. It was obviously a powerful conversation that you had with Tasha, and one that got a lot of recognition for being unique on a show that hasn't talked about it a lot. Obviously, Black Lives Matter has been a more prominent movement, obviously in 2020, but race, dating, representation, obviously hasn't been that strong on the show. Is that something that you felt when you brought it up to Tasha? Because it seemed like you were the one who initiated that conversation. Did you notice that, coming on the show as a person of color? I don't know how familiar you were with the show in the past, but did you see that as an opportunity to bring that up? And what was the reason? Because we've had other people of color, but you seem to be the one who really decided to have that conversation with Tasha.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the conversation first, then a little bit, then I'll back it up a little bit. But yeah, with that conversation in particular, like I said, it was that whole night and date, I think, was the perfect setup for me because I love game nights, and it was just a very comfortable situation for Tasha and myself. I didn't feel like there were cameras there as much as like how I felt on other group dates or other things. So it really just felt like it was herself and me there. And on top of that, that was in the summer. So that was just after all this crazy stuff happened in May and June. So that was like just something that recently kind of affected us. And, and it caused me to think a lot. It caused me to, come up with all these ideas and idea banks and projects and whatnot that I want to do going forward. And, that happened like up until the time I was on the show. So I knew it affected her as well, because she's she's biracial, but we're both viewed as Black at the end of the day here in America. So I just wanted to see kind of what her thoughts were on how things went, and what her viewpoints were really, and just get an understanding of where she was at with it. And then, to follow up with that, going into the show, I did become aware of the lack of diversity for sure. Especially with that batch diversity campaign and the stuff they were saying, and then others like yourself and Rachel and whatnot. And yeah, I never really watched the show. I started watching the show when I maybe watched a couple episodes of Rachel Lindsay way back in the day. And then I saw Peter's season because that was around the time I was going through casting. Sure. So I wanted to get an idea for what was going on. And then I went back and bought Hannah Brown's season and just wanted to see the limo entrances for that, just to figure that whole situation out.
Ivan, I respect that, because you did exactly what I did when I was going through the casting process. I watched the most current season and I went back and bought the most previous Bachelorette.
Hey, We think alike.
I like the way your brain works. So it's just like, well, maybe I'm missing something. The Bachelor or Bachelorette. I don't know if it's different. So
Exactly.
Did you get as much anxiety when you were first watching the limo exits with the guys? Because I remember watching it, going through the casting process, and it was Desiree's season, and I was just like, I don't think I can do this. This is. I was watching with my family. I was like, I really don't think I can do this.
Oh man, no, I'll say this. I knew that was going to be like a high pressure moment, but also I knew that I didn't want to do anything crazy for sure. So I was like, I'm not going to be one of the guys with all the craziness going on. I'm going to keep it nice and simple, or maybe add a little bit of flair, but nothing too crazy. So I wasn't too worried about that one going into it. Like if I had a prop or something crazy to go on to be judged by, then yeah, I would have had a little anxiety, I think. But I knew I was going to just be myself and keep it me. So I wasn't too worried about the limo entrances.
One more question before we play our game, Do You Know Me? Obviously, I'm sure I don't know if you've been asked this already, but as a fan favorite, we'll all love you. Obviously, there's opportunities to maybe come back and be seen in the Bachelor franchise, specifically Paradise, and who knows in the future, Bachelor would you want to come back? I know you're looking for love. You are open to meeting someone, like obviously I'm assuming outside of that world, but is that something you're open to if you find yourself single when they're casting for the next season of Paradise?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly it. Like I'm definitely open to it. I think going the second time around, I'll be much more comfortable than I was the first time for sure. But that being said, it is like a really far time off. And I'll be honest, I'm not one of those guys who's like dying to be on TV again. I'd love to do it. I think it'd be fun for sure. But like, I'm not like planning my life for it by any means necessary. I totally plan a date in real life first and see how this goes. And if I happen to be single, I'll for sure. I'd love to go. It was all around a great experience for me. Everybody from ABC, the production, everybody was great to me. And they, everything about it was great top to bottom. I have zero complaints. So I'd love to do it again and hopefully find love again, especially when there's, a little bit more to choose from, I'll say.
Indulge me with
this or something.
Indulge me with this question. Who from, say, Peter's season or this current season do you find might be, without knowing that much, could be both someone that you would be interested in getting to know from a cerebral level? Who do you find attractive? Who might you be interested in talking to and getting to know more from, say, the past 2 seasons? Does anyone stand out?
Okay, so of course I had like a physical attraction to a lot of the women on Peter's season, but to be honest, as far as like long-term dating, I don't know if I really see it there. I did find like Victoria Fuller and Sydney to be very attractive physically, but yeah, I granted, again, I don't know anybody from that season at all, but just from the little bit I do know, I don't think long-term it would work out really with too many of them, but you never know. Maybe somebody who went home early. And then from Matt's season, yeah, there's a ton of gorgeous women, a lot of diversity, which looks like my dating history, honestly. So that's really nice to see. Yeah, and then there's definitely some cute girls on there too.
What about?
Yeah, I don't really want to.
You don't want to say a name. What about Bree? I'm a huge fan of Bree.
I'll let you make the pick.
I feel like she's and I'm not saying I'm not going on Paradise. I'm not in a situation, but I think she's beautiful. She seems really intelligent. If she doesn't end up with Matt, I think she could end up with Matt though. So I don't want to step on any toes, but. Yeah. Maybe you and Bree. Abigail all seems like a wonderful lady.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how things play out.
All right. We'll keep it tight to the vet.
Yeah,
okay.
Out of respect for Matt, yeah, we'll just let that play out, and I'll just date in my regular life for now. But you never know if I'll be out there, so we'll see.
All right, buddy. Are you up for playing a quick game with us before we let you go?
Let's do it. Sounds good. Let's do it.
He just said he loves games.
Great.
We're good.
Just want to double check,
Games are the best. Yeah.
Just want to be respectful. It's called Do You Know Me, Ivan? It's real simple. I'm going to ask a question. Can Ivan this? Has Ivan ever done this? Blah, 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 blah. Don't answer right away. Chrissy and I are going to guess and see who knows Ivan better. If there's an anecdotal story you care to share about your answer, we'd love to hear it. Also, a simple yes or no will suffice.
Got it.
Question number 1. Can Ivan name 5 Beatles songs? Can Ivan name 5 Beatles songs? This is a great first question. This was questions that were selected by Amanda, who's part of our social media team. What do we call it? The social media syndicate? The social syndicate. Great. All right. Excellent.
Syndicate.
Well thought out question because, legendary band. 5 songs is a lot. I don't know if I can name 5 songs.
Yeah. I would say he could probably name 3, but I don't think he can name 5.
I want Ivan. I'm gonna believe in Ivan here. I think he can do it.
All right.
Go ahead, Ivan.
It's a resounding no for me.
Resounding.
Yeah.
Can you name one Beatles song?
I gotta be honest. I can't name one. Honestly, I'm like I can't.
Let It Be. Everybody knows Let It Be.
Okay, if you play it, I'll know it, of course. Like I've.
But
heard
you
it
don't.
before,
You might not know that's a Beatles song.
Yeah, I might not even know it's a Beatles song. Honestly, that's the thing. Like that's Yeah, with music growing up, I honestly didn't really get too much into music till later on, and I don't ever remember the people's names. I kind of just run through the top 100 playlist type stuff, so not the biggest into music at all.
Question number 2.
Just so I won that one. Just making sure.
Noted. Is Ivan smiling in their driver's license photo? I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yes, I am.
God damn it.
Yes, I am.
Can we confirm that? No, never mind.
It's pretty funny because I
trust you.
Yeah, I don't want to share it because I think it's a picture of when I was 17, so I have no facial hair. It's crazy. So just renewed it every year. I need to take a new picture, really.
I'm down 0-2. Has Ivan given someone the middle finger in the past year? Has Ivan given someone the middle finger in the past year? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say yes. It's like, who doesn't flip people off at least once a year in the car?
I'll tell you who doesn't. Well-poised, thought-out people who understand that a thumbs up in the right situation is far more satisfying than letting someone know that they got to him. And I feel like Ivan recognizes that. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have not flicked anybody off in a car.
That's right.
Yeah, road rage is a real thing, especially in Texas where everybody's got guns and stuff. I don't really want to have any problems. So
you haven't flicked anybody off in a whole year?
No, I honestly didn't.
I mean, me neither.
I don't know. I don't remember the last time I've flipped someone off. Maybe since I was a kid.
I rarely ever even get mad, to be honest. Like I always think I like go through that process, that emotion so quickly that I'm like, oh, let me not waste my time with it. So that's such a weird thing about me. Yeah.
Does Ivan have a journal? Yes.
Yes.
No, I don't.
Oh!
I don't journal at all.
You know
that
what?
would seem like such an easy one.
You know what? I don't know why I said yes. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of difference between you and Ivan, but there are definitely some similarities, and I don't have a journal. I don't know why I immediately assumed yes.
Yeah, I think we do have quite a few similarities with the way we think. So stick to that, Nick.
It's like you're so smart. You can keep all the stuff in your brain, the two of you. You don't have to
like
write it down.
Ivan's way smarter than me.
I tried to get myself to journal when I was on the show. I just couldn't.
Same.
I couldn't.
I was like, oh, what a perfect time to journal for the first time ever in my life. And like 2 days later, I was like, nah,
exactly.
I'll just remember it.
For sure. I had plans to do so much and do a lot in my journal. Nothing happened.
But that's the thing. I journal in my brain. I take a mental note. I can.
Yeah. What about Bennett journaled? He looks like a guy who would just sit and journal.
Does Ivan like to talk to their Uber driver? I'm gonna go with my gut and I'm gonna say no because I don't.
I'm gonna say yes because I can see it. The conversation starting.
I'll say no.
Oh!
Like, granted, if they talk to me,
you will,
yeah.
but you prefer not to if you had the choice.
Yeah, and then like whenever you're with a group of friends who just like all of a sudden one of them just wants to have this full conversation with them and ask them a ton of questions, I feel like they feel uncomfortable sometimes, and they probably do it all the time. It just depends. I can go with it, but yeah, I'd rather just sit there and be on my phone probably.
Has Ivan had sex on the first date? Ever? Has Ivan ever had sex on a first date?
Does it have to be a full-on date, or can it be like like out at the bar.
Yeah, we don't necessarily need details from Ivan if he doesn't want to share, but yeah, all of that would all that
include.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes.
I'm gonna say yes as well.
It's a yes.
Yeah, great. We're sex positive here, Ivan.
Yeah, different mindset back in the day for sure.
And also with your current mindset, it's allowed. Would you? Oh, that's a good question.
It's fair.
I'm curious.
It's fair.
I'm curious. I'm just like a personal. You want to find love. But does that mean for you? Have you changed your mindset on how much you want to pursue a physical relationship, or not necessarily?
It's changed a little bit for sure. I don't like the idea for myself, at least. Sure, back in the day, I loved the idea of I don't know, one night stands or hooking up after a first date or whatever. But now, yeah, not as much. I'd rather that be something maybe a little bit later on for both our sakes, really. Actually, well, if it happened, it happened, really. Let me take that back. If it happens, it happens. Because like if there's a strong enough attraction there, I'm not going to lie here and say it won't happen. So, yeah, I guess I'm open to it.
And which is fine. but so it sounds like the nuance is that you recognize that if it happens, it feels right, but it's certainly on the bottom of your priority list in terms of getting to know someone.
Yeah. Like maybe in the past, I, made exceptions knowing this relationship wasn't going to mean anything. Like going forward, it would have to be a relationship or somebody who I like really have actual interest in.
Last question. We'll go PG. Can Ivan name all 4 houses in the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no.
It's probably a no. Because I think I only have 3: Gryffindor, Slytherin.
I decided to go answer all my questions. What do I know? And I don't. I think I can name 3.
I think that's I think Gryffindor, Slytherin, and what is it, Hufflepuff or something? Or
and then
I can't. There's
Amanda. Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw. There
Ravenclaw, I think, is often forgotten, right, by the non-diehards.
Those all sound like cereals, like a Huff and Puff.
Yeah, the Huff and Puff.
They all sound like cereal names.
Yeah. Yeah. Close though.
She was probably eating cereal and she was writing the book. Ivan, thanks so much for joining us and being so candid and sharing your stories, answering the questions. Where can people find you on social if they want to learn more about you and follow your journey post Tasha and Claire?
Yeah, so again, appreciate you guys having me. I've listened to you guys a couple times and love your podcast for sure. And so it's an honor to be here. But to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, TikTok, it's Ivan B. Hall on all of those. Or Twitter is Ivan B. Hall 8. I'll say that. But couldn't get the Ivan B. Hall. But yeah, just follow me on there and follow the journey, I guess.
Awesome, buddy. I appreciate it. I hope to meet you in person at some point.
For sure.
And if nothing else, I hope to see you on the big screen or little screen. I don't know, whatever. I hope to see you on the beach if it's right for you.
Got it. Yeah, we'll see. I appreciate that.
All right, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. And as always, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to send your questions at asknick@castme.com. Cast with a K. We'll see you on Monday for our Ask Nick episode. Next week, I don't know. Whatever. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Fuck it. Have a good day.